Well, he's a graduate of UW-Madison, spent several years as a reporter at a Madison TV station, 25 years at CNN, and before that, a White House correspondent for CBN.
John Dedakis is also out with his fourth novel, Bullet in the Chamber. John is back in Madison, and he joins us this afternoon. Great to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, this is about your son. Can you paint a picture for everybody about what who your son was all about?
Well, my son was he was the youngest, and he was a cook. He could have been a stand-up comic. He taught himself how to play drums, but he also got addicted to heroin, and so we lost him about 5 years ago. And so I took his story and poured it into a novel. So it's fiction, and it's part of the series that I'd already started writing on. And so then I took his story and made it as a sort of a subplot. But you can see him, you know, he taught himself how to play guitar, and he was a handsome dude, and he was really funny. He could mimic just about anyone.
Was it tough to write this book, or was it cathartic?
It was both. I mean, I cried while I wrote. It was a catharsis. I've cried when I've read it, even since. It's being made into an audio book, and when I listened to it, I cried again. But you know what? That's part of grief. And women get it. They cry, and that's a good safety valve. It's a learned experience for men. We have anger nailed, but if you keep your grief inside, it can be corrosive.
So you mentioned grief, and you went to grief counseling.
I did, and I was writing the novel during the time I was in grief counseling, and that was an incredibly clarifying experience, because my sister killed herself in 1980, and I'd written about it in my first novel a little bit, but I'd never really dealt with it in the same way. So grief counseling really took me all the way back and gave me a lot of clarity, to the point where I realized that one of the reasons I write as a woman is to create the woman I wish my sister had become. It's uncanny how the subconscious works.
This is a real page turner. It's not, I mean, this is...
It's meant to be.
A White House correspondent, disaster strikes the White House, bullet in the chamber. What's the title refer to?
Well, you can see the bullet in the syringe, and I came up with the vision, the idea for that illustration 2 days after my son went missing, because I knew heroin was going to be a factor. And the whole idea of a bullet in the syringe, I mean, it's like Russian roulette. And I mean, my opinion is, if the cops can make the connection between the pusher and the fatal drug overdose, they should charge him with second-degree murder. But I found in my research that that's not a slam dunk, that you have to convict beyond a reasonable doubt, and there can be a lot of reasonable doubt. So, but even then, and I deal with the difficulties in that, but you know, heroin it's a poison. It's poison, and it's even gotten worse in the last 4 years. It's everywhere.
I want to switch gears here. We mentioned that you were a White House correspondent, so you have been seeing things that have been transpired over the past few months.
I hear there was an election not too long ago.
I heard something about that.
Fake news, et cetera, et cetera. How do you see all of this changing the landscape here?
Well, you know, in some ways I see it changing for the better, because I think that journalism for a long time has become entertainment, especially broadcast news, and CNN wasn't immune from that either. And I think that because our current president has a fast and loose relationship with the truth, it means that there's more of a challenge for reporters to dig deeper, ask the tough questions, and be willing to take the consequences of being accused of being fake news just for doing their jobs.
So they have to do their jobs even harder.
That's exactly it.
Better.
And better, because there have been mistakes. And mistakes is not the same as bias. It can be a mistake. But now, because of the internet, there are a lot of news sources out there that you have to be, as a viewer, much more discerning about the quality of the information you're getting, as opposed to just information that reinforces your own bias. And that's true either for the left or the right.
Do you miss it?
I like to watch it now.
You like retirement?
I do.
And writing books?
I do.
And traveling the country?
And my protagonist is a journalist, so I'm living vicariously now.
John, great to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
He's going to be at Barnes & Noble West tonight from 6 to 8. Signing books, come out and meet him. And it really is a page-turner.
Thank you.
It's great work. Good
Thanks.
to see you again.
It's good to see you.
Welcome back to Madison.
Thank you.
John, thank you.